So I'm going to start by throwing out slabs. Actually, let me say where I actually started. I started by researching images. What do I want to narrate or illustrate? So this is a balloon. Okay. My family, we go and crew balloons. So it's kind of a thing for us. I actually saw Keith and Marianne this morning driving up the highway. They're going to Bernal to do a balloon show. Keith and Marianne, they own Smiley's Dream, which is a black and red hot air balloon. What?
Is it like popular?
Is it? Are they popular?
I don't know who it is, and no one knows it.
I don't know if you'd call them popular. I mean, when you... Has anyone seen a balloon land in your neighborhood before?
No.
Yeah, you have? Anyway, when a balloon comes down in your neighborhood or you see a balloon going up, they become very popular because it's a pretty cool sight. So, all right, I'm going to throw out some slabs. I'm going to use speckled clay. You can use D-mix. As we start this, we are not getting our new shipment of D-mix in until middle to end of next week. So just be mindful of that. We have 4 boxes of B-mix left. So, on the wheel, when we start, I want you to use recycled clay to start with, to kind of reintroduce yourself. All right. So I'm going to throw out a bunch of clay, and then I'm going to show you some of the options you have for plates. There's there. Now, when I start with this, I'm going to turn one light off. I will take my clay straight off the bag, just hit it just a little bit. Like this one, I needed to, it was tilted up a little bit. Just kind of wake that up just a hair. And then I'm going to throw it straight from the bag. I'm not going to wedge it. Okay, you don't need to wedge it. Throwing it down is going to mix it up pretty well, mess with the inconsistencies, all that great stuff. You can wedge it, but speckled clay particularly, and this clay even more so, because it's a little more dense, I don't want to wedge it and take that water out of it. I want it to be what it is. So we throw out that slab. I'm going to move that paper right there. Okay. And put that right there. Take that off. All right, throw out another slab. So down and towards you. Down and towards you. Usually I kind of figure out how big do I want this, and I go that direction, and then I start to widen it out from there. You don't want it to be really thin, but let me rephrase that. You don't want it to be really narrow. Thin would be this way. That's about right. And throw this one down. Now, if there are techniques that you want to do but I didn't cover, the answer is probably. We're going to cover masking again. We're going to cover stenciling, which includes underglaze painting. Your plates, the bigger they are, should be just a little bit thicker than normal. So, should be this thick for a small plate and about 1.5 of these for a big plate. roughly. Okay, make sure you're putting your clay back. Now, let's talk about options real quick. We have lots of options, but limited at the same time. So I have some slump molds. A slump mold is something that you drop clay onto, okay, and it's going to create that shape, but in reverse. And there's a couple of those. This is a hump mold, which means it goes down in it. So let me just show you actually these two. So this and this make similar plates. One you're going to put down, and the face of the plate is going to be facing down. This, the face of the plate, is going to be facing up. Okay, and you can kind of do that, but I only have two of these, and they're plaster. Please be careful, they do chip, and they will break if you drop them. So I have two of those. I have one of these, it's also plaster. I have these little foam rings. I have small ones and medium ones, and they make kind of a little fun drop mold as well. I have just some random circles. I have actual plates. Okay, I have some platters. If you want to do a platter. What else do I have over here? Oh, I have some of these. So these are also drop molds for plates. And I have 3 or 4 of these. So you can put that on there, but the face is going to be down. So if you're going to do this, this would be something that you put down, you let it start to dry, and then you start cutting out your images and things like that. Because to work on this, it's going to have to be leather hard, because once you flip it over, it's going to want to flop. Okay. One of the fun things about these is you can make shapes. So we'll do one of these and I'll show you what I mean by that. And then I have some square ones now. I just found these this morning. I guess they're all kind of jacked up. So looks like they got hit by something. So if you want to work around that, we used to do these all the time. And Walmart had them and I can't get these anymore. At least I haven't found them. So supply chain issues. Okay. So let's start with just a plate, okay? Oh, and all of these things are over here. So make sure that when you grab it and use it, you put it back here. Okay, you're the only class that will be using these. So if you have a slump mold, that's fine. But when you're done, put it back over there. All right, so I'm gonna come here. I'm going to create that. So I like to use a needle tool because a needle tool, as we go around, we can twist and it's the same surface all the way around. Where when we use, say, an X-Acto knife or a fettling knife, your straight blade has to follow where you're going. Okay. I'm just going to use this here. No, I don't want that one. It's broken. That one. Come right here and just gently roll that around. Now every one of these is going to shrink just a little bit. So this 10 1/4 inch plate, it's going to end up being about 9 3/4 inches, something like that. Still a good size. Okay, now all of this, wedge it up real quickly, stick it in the bag, so we can use it again with the and then we can throw that out and make a good. Here, to make another something with it. Try not to waste clay. By wasting clay, I mean you need to put it away quickly. So we'll go from there. I'm going to clean up the edge and all I'm gonna do is just run my finger around it. I'm just pulling off these little clay chunks. Okay. Just gently cleaning it up. It's easier to do that now than later. You can run a sponge around it if you want. You don't have to. Before I do anything else, I'm gonna lift it, make sure it's releasing. Okay, and then one thing you can do, you can take a metal rib, you can use a wood rib, you can use a rubber rib. Rubber ribs are green, red, and there's some blue ones. And you can come in here and you can smooth out the surface or compress it if you want. So you can come in here and this will help to make it so it doesn't warp as much. Okay, any questions so far? All right, going to put this on here. And how you want your plates, up to you. You can have a nice curve. You can make it so it has that drop transition, so it's, has a shelf on it. Those are all perfectly acceptable things to do. You choose. I'm just going to leave that right there. Put it aside. Now, while that's drying a minute, you can go in and you can search your images. And what I did, I cut out some stencils. So that's 1, that's 2, and then the mountains on the bottom are 3. I have other options. I could print out another one, and I did. If I wanted to, I could cut out like the clouds. I could cut those into a stencil so that I could just paint white over, say, the blue I'm going to put on, and that will give me almost perfect placement for my clouds. I don't have to do that, but I could. Okay, that's drying. What do we want to do? Let's do one of these. Let's do the small one. There. Now, if you do something like this, you should probably raise it up a little bit. You don't have to, but we'll just put it on here. So just raise it up, and then we'll be able to cut that. And it's pretty simple. You can come in here and just drape it like so, so it can be a very shallow dish. You can drop it harder, so it's a deep dish. You choose. We're going to make it a little deeper than that. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to cut big there. And I'm just going to come here and drop it. Okay, so it's a little deeper. You can use your sponge if you want to clean that up. Now on the plaster ones, on the foam ones, as you're cutting through, try not to dig so deep. You don't want to cut through the plaster or the foam. You're just going to come in here, whatever works for you. I'm just going to go around the edge here. And we'll come in later and smooth out these edges. Okay, that's another way of making some sort of a plate. Again, these edges will be easy to come in when it's leather hard, and you just smooth those out. Right, figure out where it is. You can use your fettling knife and trim them up. But that's where you would do most of your work. It can sit on there. So if you use this one, it can sit on there in a bag. So let's say you started on Monday, it can sit on there till Wednesday, as long as it's in a bag. Do I have any that you can't? This here, if it sits on too tight, it will want to crack a little bit. Same with this one. because it's shrinking inwards like this, where something like this, when it shrinks inwards, there's nothing holding it. So it'll shrink inwards and it'll leave a space on the edge here. So just be mindful of that. If you wrap it up really well, it shouldn't matter too much. Okay, let's do one just freestyle. So freestyle could be any number of ways. We could put clay up here. Throw out another slab here and I'll show you that. I like speckled clay for a couple reasons. One, it's a little more dense than B-Mix. It doesn't flop as much. Two, for hand building especially. Two, I like it has this toasty brown kind of color to it. Okay. Throw that on there. I'm going to smooth that out just a little bit. And remember, my face is down now, so this is going to have to sit quite a while. All right. And you could come in, you could put on a pattern, or you could just kind of freestyle this. So I'm just going to create. Sort of a dish there. And where my slip is. So we'll put lots of variations. So I'm going to create a little foot for this. And the foot could be any number of things. It could be just little balls that sit on there. Something some people like to do. They'll come in here and they'll create little strips, and then they will curve those up, and then they put those on there like that. So they'll put 3 or 4 of those on there at the same height, so that it's raised up a little bit. You can come in. We're just going to put a little foot on here. Center that. Okay, put that on there like so. Grab a serrated rib. And if there's anything that you're like, I don't get what you're doing, please ask. I'm just going to score this. One of the great parts about ceramics too is you should have enough information to get started, and then you can kind of either, you can call it fumbling your way through it, or kind of work your way through it as you go, and then ask bigger questions when we get there, because you should be able to kind of reverse engineer some of the things that we do. There. And then I'm just going to compress that down. And you'll be able to come in later and clean that up just a little bit, make sure it's level. You can take a little bit off. But if you flipped it over right now, your edges are going to be floppy. Again, it just depends on how you like to work. If you like patterns and keeping things perfect, maybe a freestyle piece is not for you. So I'm gonna set that over there. And then we're just gonna do a flat piece, and just gonna do that just like this. Cut it straight up and down. I'm gonna grab a board real quick. Clean up my edges. I come here and I'm just going to pinch up my edges here. So it's going to look a little bit more organic, just a little bit of a lip. This is the kind of plate you'd find in a farmer's market in Oregon, maybe Salt Lake. They make a bunch of them. There's a little bit of organicness to them. Okay. All right, now, what do? When it's leather hard, depending on which one we're doing, or today, we're gonna do this. You grab me 3 or 4 underglazes. I mean, we can go standard, blue, red, brownish. Doesn't really matter to me. And then if you'll grab a white one as well. Okay, so how we do this, breaking my own rules here, make sure you put your clay away. Awesome. Okay, you choose how this is going to go. I want this, I think, to go on last because I'm going to have my blue on there, and then I want to put this on, and I want to add some clouds, and I don't want the clouds to be on the mountains. Okay, they could. There are clouds on the mountains. So that means we start up top here by doing the mountains first. Where'd my spray bottle go? So when you do this, try to cut your form, your stencil, so that you don't have a ton of extra paper. You can measure this. So if today you're like, what size do I want to do? You can measure this and go, oh, that'll work. Like you can measure your form so you know what size to sketch out or print out. Now, here's one of the problems with starting this project Monday. I won't be here. I will be at an appointment. And so you won't really have access to a printer. So you should bring some printed images yourself. We're going to separate today into who's on the back, who's on the front. So for some of you, it may be you don't need them until Friday of next week, but kind of go from there. So we've got brown. Nice. And while I'm doing this one, I will also do my balloon, at least the start of it. Paint from the paper towards wherever. Brush strokes are kind of inevitable, but if you go over them a couple of times, you can get rid of some of them. The thicker you go with underglaze, the more likely it's going to be chunky or crack. Okay. So that's just a quick version. If we wanted to, we could come in here and we could add like the mountain peaks and the valleys and do all kinds of fun stuff. That's not a requirement. It can just be an outline or a silhouette. You choose. Blue. Any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns? This is red. And again, if you want to add details, you can scratch some in, you can paint some on, and choose what that looks like. Perfect. Now all I do is take this and peel that back, and that gives us the mountains, it gives us a balloon in the sky, right? So a lot of times for me, I might take that and put a ghost image. We'll put that over here, just because for me it's kind of fun. Like printmaking. So that's a little bit different of an image. Whatever works for you. Okay. There are hair dryers. They're under the sink, so you could pull those out. I'm not going to pull them out right now, but you should dry your piece just a little bit. Because if it's not dry, it'll want to pick up, but I'm just going to rush through this. I'm going to put my balloon on there, and that's going to mask out the red of my balloon, right? And then I'm going to put my mountains, line them up. Like that. And then we're going to get out our blue. So I talked to my clay guy last night, and we are getting our clay next week, but any of our underglazes are still a month out to get them, and I ordered them well over a month ago. Kind of crazy. I did order some pigments, and we're going to make some colored slips. So we'll start that next week as well. But when you do that, you need to make them, put some on a piece, bisque fire them, and then glaze fire them with a clear to see what color they actually come out before I can, and those just came in 2 days ago. So we'll be playing with those later. You can paint the edges, you don't have to paint the edges. Thank you. Price it. You can use brush strokes to your advantage if you want them to maybe look like it's a little windy. Although hot air balloons don't actually fly in high winds, they fly in low winds. Like 6 miles an hour is pretty fast for a balloon. Just random facts. Since we're talking random facts, how many cubic feet is a standard hot air balloon? There's 2 sizes, but you'd be pretty close. How many cubic feet?
13.
How many?
13.
13?
No, it's way more than that.
1,300?
It's a lot more than 13.
Any guesses? The height of a basic standard balloon, I would say it's a mid to large size. The height is about 6 stories high when it's inflated.
13,000.
13,000 cubic feet?
Potentially.
So,
I'm going to say it's over 100,000.
it's over 100. So, there's 2 basic standard balloon sizes. There's a 90 and a 108. And a 90 is literally 90,000 cubic feet of space once it's blown up. And a 108 is 108,000. So, all right, so we have that there. I'm going to, my white is a little bit. Remember, white goes on gray, but it does come out white, in theory. So I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to, all I'm doing is adding some cloud forms. Great thing about lots of information like this, so let me restate that. So the great thing about not being a great artist is you don't have to be a great artist. Most art is just showing you like the idea of something. It's not actually a perfect representation of what it is. It's the idea. So we can trick people's minds into going, those are clouds. Even if you're like, I don't know if they look like clouds, but when we pull that off, and then I'm going to use my needle tool to pull off my hot air balloon. Should be a little drier than this. Okay, so now we have a narrative piece, right? Talking about hot air balloons. You don't have to give all the information. But
How come you record these?
how come I record them?
Is there like an online thing?
So if anyone misses, I just go put those onto Google Classroom,
Okay.
and you watch it. So you do the exact same thing we did today. Plus, if I don't actually hit record, it'll time out. Which brings me up to this. I sent out links to Google Classroom. Make sure you go and sign into that. There is an assignment up right now. It's a getting to know you assignment, so that I know that you're on Google Classroom. I need to know that you're on Google Classroom, because you don't get to have that excuse of, I didn't know I was supposed to watch that video, because you need to watch that video, whatever video it is. Okay. Does that give you enough information to kind of start? So Monday, you're going to show up, you're going to have some ideas printed out. I would recommend laser printer over a color inkjet printer, just because when you spray an inkjet printer, the water will react with the ink of your piece. You can make copies on a copier if you want to. You can freehand something. I did want to show you another way of transferring. Let's say you just want to paint. But again, you're like, I'm not a great artist. So you can come in here, grab your paper like this. Do not wet it. And you're going to grab a mechanical pencil, no lead. It can have lead in it, just don't pull it out. And you're just going to come in here and trace this. Now, doing it this way, you can get more texture, you can get more other things going on. Quickly run that. So if you want to underglaze paint, you can also do a little bit of both. So I'm going to get all the lines on the balloons this time, which I didn't last time. Each one of those lines that goes down, it's called a panel. And those panels, they can't just be straight. It has to have a little bit of like that ballooning effect. Not just the whole balloon, but each of those panels. And we're going to draw the mountains while we're here. So they're on there. You can't really see it, but they're on there. So now I can come in and paint. I could carve a little bit. I could do Mishima. You choose. If you wanted to add dark lines later, okay, let's say I want this to have some dark lines. I'm going to take my needle tool and I'm going to create some lines that come down from my mountains. And then I could create lines. And I'm kind of cruising through this on my balloon. Okay, I'd bisque fire that, and then I would put black underglaze on it, wipe it off, and then clear glaze it. And now the lines on my balloons, the lines on my mountains are going to be black. So it's something you can do. What else do we want to cover real quick? Do you have any questions? No? Okay. We're going to go to the back and we're going to do a quick throwing demo.